In this module, we're going to talk about finding and sharing information. So this is all the different tools that are available to help us manage the final pillar that we've talked about in SharePoint, finding content. So we'll talk about a couple of different things. Right out of the gate, we'll talk about setting and managing alerts on both lists and libraries, making sure that if somebody does touch a list or a library, that you're the first to know. We'll talk about using site and list search. So you can either find content across an entire array of lists and libraries, or content that's specific to just one particular app. We'll talk about advanced search, because not all searches are created equally. We can definitely make sure that we hone in on specific content, especially if you're drilling through thousands of files. We'll talk about search alerts. The search results that you see at one given moment might not be the search results that you'll see the next day. So making sure that you're notified anytime something meets a certain search criteria and being alerted of it is a pretty powerful tool. We'll talk about using discussion boards and surveys. And finally, we'll talk about navigating through wiki pages, making sure that you're familiar with what they are and what they'll look like. So let's go ahead and get started. Because SharePoint is such a collaborative platform, there's a ton of different things happening all the time, so it can be hard to know where to look for the latest updates. Instead of tying yourself to a specific list or library and watching it like a hawk for the latest updates, instead, what you can do is you can set alerts that will notify you when changes have taken place. I'll show you how to do that here in a library. To set an alert, first things first, either in a modern list or library, you'll click the ellipses on the far right-hand side. You should see the option, Alert Me. Once you've chosen Alert Me, it asks for a couple of things. Right out of the gate, it's asking for an alert title. This is particularly useful when it comes to making sure that if you don't need an alert, you know which one you're turning off. So be sure to give it a good descriptive name. I tend to use the name of the list or library in the alert title, but of course, you can call it whatever you want. If you're a site owner or administrator, you can actually designate additional people to send alerts to. However, if you're just an average end user here in a SharePoint environment, you're only going to be able to send alerts to yourself. So keep in mind, this field may or may not be editable. The delivery method does enumerate two different options, email and text message. However, it's important to note that most organizations don't support text messages out of the box, so there's a good chance you'll be stuck with just email. From there, you get to designate the change type. When should they send you alerts? When any change takes place? Only when new files are uploaded? Only when existing files are edited? Or how about when items are just deleted? In each of these instances, you can say, only send me emails for that. If you do choose existing items are modified or all changes, from there, you'll also get to specify whether it's when anything changes, when someone else changes a document that you uploaded, or when someone else changes a document that you were the last person to modify. Once you've specified whether or not you want to be alerted to specific changes or all changes, you'll get to designate when you receive these alerts. Keep in mind, a high-traffic library can have as many as 100 edits a day, so sending a notification immediately might be a little bit messy and very distracting. So note that you can also send a daily summary. If you choose to send a daily summary, it'll roll up all the changes into a single email, and you get to designate what time that email will come in. But if these changes aren't urgent, or you don't necessarily have time in a day to normally review them, but you can set aside once a week in order to do so, you can choose to send a weekly summary update, where you'll designate the day and the time. Once you've specified all that, click OK. And just like that, an alert has been set on this library. You'll even get an email notifying you that you've successfully created an alert. To modify an alert at any time, simply click on that same ellipses and select Manage My Alerts. And there it is. This will show you all alerts that are available on your entire site, so not just for this specific library. So if you forget that you created alerts, this view will help you to see where those alerts are and whether or not you still need them. Go ahead and pause the video and try this for yourself. Just as a reminder, to create an alert on either a list or a library, simply go to the top portion of the screen and click the ellipses, and choose Alert Me. We'll see you after the break. Not all your lists and libraries will have that new modern interface, so it's important to know how to set alerts in the classic interface as well for lists and libraries. You'll know it's the classic interface because you'll have access to the ribbon at the top portion of the screen. The ribbon will indicate the classic style of list or library. To set an alert on either a list or a library, simply go up to the tab that says List or Library. It might not always say List or Library, but it will always be the third tab from the left-hand side. Look for the button that says Alert Me and give it a click. It should say either Set Alert on this list or Set an Alert on this library. Whichever one it says, depending on either the list or the library that you're in, give it a click. You'll notice that these are the same fields it's asking for that it asked for in the modern interface. So nothing changes here, simply the manner in which we get to turning on this alert. And likewise, to modify alerts after the fact, simply click on Alert Me again and select Manage My Alerts. So to recap, not all apps, either lists or libraries, will have that new modern interface. So to set alerts on the entire app, simply go to the List or Library tab, select Alert Me, and choose Set Alerts on this list or library. Go ahead and pause the video, find a classic list or library, and give it a shot. We'll see you after the break. Not all SharePoint sites are created equally, so it's important to keep in mind that you'll have to be able to find content even if you don't know where to look. So let's talk a little bit about search. To use search on a site-wide scale, visit any page and look to the top right corner, and you'll find search. You'll notice that in my instance, it says search this site. Of course, if I click the drop-down arrow to the right, I can expand or contract it to either just conversations, search for just people, search for everything, or back to the site again. We'll go ahead and try just this site to start, and I'll search for coffee. Now, one of the cool parts about search here is that it doesn't just search the name of files. It also searches items in a list. It also searches, as we're seeing here, text in a file. You'll notice the word coffee doesn't appear anywhere inside the name, and it definitely doesn't appear anywhere inside the URL. What it's actually done is it's identified the word coffee inside this Excel spreadsheet. Pretty cool. If you hover over an item in search, it'll actually give you a real-time preview of that file. You can even choose to click View Library, and it will take you directly to that document library that contains that file. Let's try searching for just the word Sean. You'll notice this time it shows a ton of files. So not only am I seeing Excel spreadsheets and PowerPoint presentations, I'm also seeing PDFs. Now, on the left-hand side, you'll notice that I can sort and filter based on result type. So if I only want to look at, let's say, PDFs, for example, I can click on PDF. And likewise, if I want to filter by who uploaded it, I can choose from here as well. And finally, I can even modify based on the date. So if I want to see when's the last time someone touched this file, I can see that it's somewhere between 1 week ago and today. So now I'm only seeing files within this window, as opposed to seeing something from 3 years ago, for example. Go ahead and try search for yourself. Remember, simply from a page, use the top right corner search box, type your search result, choose your scope, and click the magnifying glass or press enter. Keep in mind that you can filter your results once you've run the search. Go ahead and try that for yourself. Should you choose to expand your search to not just this site, but everything, meaning all sites you have access to across an entire SharePoint implementation, you should note that down at the bottom, you'll have access to something called Advanced Search. By clicking on Advanced Search, this will allow you to get a little bit more granular with how you drill down. Keep in mind you may not see advanced search if you're searching just one site, so you may need to expand to everything. From here, you get to specify, as a general hodgepodge, what words are you searching for? What phrases? What words don't you want to see? Beyond that, you can narrow the scope even further to just specific files. You can even go even further and modify it based on metadata. There's a lot of different variables here that you have access to. And keep in mind that Microsoft does provide additional search tips if you feel like this isn't quite enough. So there are a ton of tools at your disposal that allow you to drill down even further with regards to search. But it all starts from knowing where to go. So to recap, I'm going to go ahead and click back to just a standard search. In this case here, I'll go ahead and search based on me, LT02. And from there, I'm going to expand the scope to everything. Keep in mind that searching everything does take you out of that particular site and into what's called the Search Center. Now if I scroll down, I'll see Advanced Search. So keep in mind, once again, if you don't see Advanced Search down at the bottom, try expanding your scope to everything and scrolling down to the bottom. Go ahead and give that a shot. Pause the video, and we'll see you right back where we left off. Being able to search is, without a doubt, one of the coolest features that's available in SharePoint. But the results you're looking for might not instantly be available. In fact, you might be ahead of the curve. You might be searching for something that hasn't been added to SharePoint yet. But you might want to be notified when it is added to SharePoint. On those instances, what we can do is when you run a search, say for yourself, you can actually set an alert, starting at the bottom of the screen here. So to set an alert for search, simply run a search and then select Alert Me. The search alert looks a lot like a list or library alert. That said, once again, make sure that you're giving these alert titles good descriptive names. You'll notice that Microsoft recommends using the word search preceding the actual name of the search. From there, you'll see that all alerts will be sent to your email. Do you want to receive alerts only when new items are added to the search results? Or how about when existing items are changed? Or perhaps when there are any changes? From there, you'll get to specify, do you receive a daily summary, or do you receive a summary once a week? However you choose to be alerted, simply click OK. And just like that, any new items in this example that are added to the search result that meet the criteria of LT02 and thus appear in search, I'll be notified. Pretty cool. Now, be careful not to create too many alerts, otherwise you'll inevitably be inundated with all these different notifications. But nonetheless, keep in mind that this can be a great way to stay ahead of things if announcements happen in other parts of the site that you're not normally at. Not only can you search on a site-wide scale and on a SharePoint implementation-wide scale, you can also search on an individual list and library level. So I'm currently inside of a document library. To run a search in a library, or a list for that matter, using the modern interface, simply navigate to that list and library and click Search up in the top left-hand corner. Type the word you're searching for, like sales, and check it out. It actually runs a search in real time without having to press the Enter key. So it'll show you those results without you having to go and see all of them all at once. Now, if you'd prefer a little bit more of a standard search view, you can easily press the Enter key, and you'll see that it shows us all the search results here as well. So you're not limited to just this specific view. You can also expand the search to all of SharePoint if you feel like you're not seeing what you need to see. So that's searching in the modern interface. But it's important to note that you can also search individually inside the classic styles of lists and libraries as well. So let's say, for the sake of argument, I'm inside the Central Tasks list. Here in the classic view of lists and libraries, instead of search being in the top left corner, you'll find it towards the middle of the screen, and it'll say either find a file or find an item. So I'll go ahead and click inside that box, and I'll type my search result. And I'll press enter. Nope, no luck there. I'll go ahead and search the word meeting. And there you go. So you'll see here, I was able to identify that task name using the search word meeting. While the interface does look a little bit different in the classic versus the modern, it is still, at its core, the same search. Go ahead and pause the video and try search inside an individual list and library. For maximum comfort, we highly recommend trying it in both the classic and the modern view of lists and libraries. Remember, the classic view has the ribbon tab. The modern view does not have the ribbon tab and is generally a little bit more flat. We'll see you after the break. Discussion boards are an essential part of the SharePoint platform. It allows tons of users to come together into a central location to ask questions, to start discussions, and to have those users then respond and answer those questions. It also allows the individuals who start these subjects, who start these questions, to designate their preferred answer, so that when other people have that question or would like to find out more information about a subject, they don't have to scroll through all the different answers that were given. They can see which one the person who asked decided was the most helpful. So I'm currently inside a discussion board, which I'd like to add is a type of list. If for no other reason, then when I click on New Discussion to add a new subject, take a look at how it's receiving its information. I'm typing the information. I'm giving the data directly to SharePoint. Therefore, it's a list. Now, if I had uploaded a file, and that had been the primary means through which I gave this information, then this would have been a library. So I'm currently in a list, and I'm going to go ahead and ask a quick question. We'll say I'd like to ask, how do I suggest a new project? I can't seem to figure out who to talk to or where to go. I'll go ahead and mark that I'm asking a question, and I'll go ahead and click Save. And just like that, you'll see my discussion has now been posted. It's available for anybody who has edit access to the SharePoint site to answer this question if they should so choose. So let's go ahead and see if anybody's answered my question. So I went ahead and clicked on my question. I can see, sure enough, I've already got a couple of answers. Cool. You should reach out to our head of project development, Jessica. She's usually at her desk in the mornings for walk-ins. Show up prepared and good luck. I've also got another answer. Smoke signals and carrier pigeons. Now clearly one of these is the more articulate and helpful answer. Now of course I can reply and say, great tip. Thanks. I can go ahead and reply again and say, do you recommend a particular breed of pigeon? So regardless of how you decide to tackle this here, I think we can all agree that in this particular instance, LT04 gave us the best answer. As the person who asked the question, I can actually mark this as the best reply by clicking on the ellipses to the right of the answer and selecting Best Reply. So you'll notice now that that's been pinned to the top portion of the screen. Now, anybody who clicks on that link, how do I suggest a new project, will see that I designated this as the best reply. Discussion boards are a great way to bring people together in a way that is highly collaborative, but also allows us to lean on each other in ways that we otherwise might not do. So go ahead and find a discussion board. If there isn't already a discussion board, make one. Be a part of the conversation. It's a great tool. SharePoint surveys are a great way to gather feedback from a lot of people all at once. Because most people already know, at least in some respect, how to navigate through SharePoint, we can use it in order to answer some simple questions and get a good graphical summary of what those responses are. To submit a survey, Simply click on the Respond to the Survey link when you're inside a survey. From here, it'll ask you whatever questions were made available. I like showing up at 8 a.m. Not too much, but I do enjoy the options that are at the cafe. And I'll click Next. If I could change one thing about this job, it would be more bagels. How happy are you? We'll say 5s on both counts. And I'll click Finish. Now that I've responded to that survey, down at the bottom I can see the number of responses. Now keep in mind that unless you're the one that created the survey, you're not going to be able to see a lot of information about this. But if you're a site admin or site owner, you'll be able to drill down up to and including showing all responses. Now surveys can be created either to not record who submitted it or to record who submitted it. If you're not sure which one you're in, when you click on Respond to the Survey, when you're submitting a field, you should actually see down towards the bottom that the by is starred out, indicating that this is an anonymous survey. Now, generally, those surveys will communicate that to you, but that's also a great indicator to identify there. If you see the 3 asterisks, that indicates that you're submitting an anonymous survey. That said, if you do have access to the graphical summary, you'll see a link down at the bottom on the main screen. Simply click on Show a Graphical Summary of Responses, and you'll see a step-by-step breakdown of all the questions that were answered. So I can see that a majority of people enjoy the options at the cafe, but it's a 50-50 split on who likes showing up at 8 a.m. I can see any of the text-based answers that were given. I can even see the spread from 1 to 5 on each of these questions that were answered using the radio buttons. So this can be a great way to collect some simple information and make decisions based on it. If you'd like, you can also click Show All Responses, and this will show you a list of all surveys. Once again, I'd like to make note, you'll notice that everything is starred out. Keep in mind, I'm a site owner. If I was able to see it, I would be able to see it here. So that's a quick introduction into surveys. Surveys, again, are an incredibly valuable source of collecting information, but only if they're used effectively, and that means knowing how to use them. In our final section, we'll be talking about integrating SharePoint and Office 365. We'll be talking about adding documents via Office 365 web apps like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and OneNote Online. We'll also talk about working with existing files in web apps, making sure that you're familiarized with how we can use these online, web-based versions of these applications to make quick, on-the-fly changes. We'll talk about a second kind of survey available through OneDrive for Business with a new modern interface that integrates directly with Excel. And finally, we'll talk about managing your About Me and how to follow documents. Let's go ahead and get started. With Office 365 and SharePoint Online, increasingly we're starting to see that all of Microsoft's tools are feeding into each other, meaning that building content in one area of Office 365 is easily moved to another. So we saw that when we were in a document library, it was really easy for us to say, I'd like to create a new file by clicking on New and creating a Word, Excel, PowerPoint, or OneNote document. But of course, if I click on the little waffle icon up here in the top left-hand corner, many organizations now make available directly the Word application, Excel, PowerPoint, and OneNote online versions of these apps. So you can also create Word documents, Excel spreadsheets, presentations, and OneNote notebooks here. So let's say I want to create a new Word document. Instead of clicking on New Word document, especially if I don't know that that's the actual document library I want to store that file in, but I want to get started on the file, I can click on the waffle icon and go to Word and just start working on that file, just as if I would if I were going to be creating that file on my computer. So I'll go ahead and create a blank document. Bear in mind, it looks a lot like Microsoft Word, but an important distinction, we're actually in Word Online, hence the URL field up at the top portion of the screen and the fact that it says Word Online. So I'm going to go ahead and populate a little bit of gibberish text here. There we go. Hopefully some of you speak some Latin. And I'll go ahead and call this the follow-up report. Now, of course, if you've seen our previous videos on Word Online, you know that there is no save button. All changes are saved instantly. The real question, however, is where is it saving? I never told it to save anywhere. I just said, make a new document. Now, of course, when you create a new document on the desktop, you can wait until the very last moment to decide where to save. But when you're working online, there are a ton of variable conditions that can ruin a file you're working on, like losing your Wi-Fi connection. So when you create a new document, but you haven't specified where to save it, Microsoft defaults to your OneDrive. If you'll remember, the top left-hand corner will always take you back to where a file was saved. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a title real quick, and we'll call this sure enough, the follow-up report. And I'm going to go ahead and click to go into my OneDrive. Now, of course, you could have also clicked on the waffle icon up here in the top left-hand corner and clicked on OneDrive. That would have taken you to the same place. But there it is. There's that follow-up report. Now, this isn't a OneDrive series, but it's important to note that OneDrive is your personal workspace. Any new files that you create or upload here are for your use and your use only until you share them. Hence the fact that it says, only you. But now I've created this file and I've decided I actually do want other people to have access to it in SharePoint. So you might be under the assumption that you have to download this file and then re-upload it into SharePoint. Well, that couldn't be farther from the truth. Instead, simply select the file or files that you'd like to move to SharePoint, and then select Copy To, either using the top toolbar at the top portion of the screen or by right-clicking on the file and selecting Copy To. From here, you'll actually see a list of any SharePoint sites you have access to. In this case here, we've been working in Project Central. So I'll click on Project Central. From here, it actually lets me choose which folder I'd like to drop it into in the only library that currently exists in Project Central. In this case, I'd like to go ahead and drop it into the Q4 folder. So I'll go ahead and click Copy here. And just like that, it's been moved over. Now keep in mind, you can't use Move To. Move To only allows you to move within your OneDrive. Copy To, on the other hand, does let you make duplicates of a file and ship them over to SharePoint. So now, if I were to use my quick navigation here on the left-hand side to jump back into Project Central's SharePoint site, you'll notice that it's actually giving me that document library right out of the gate. Of course, I could also just go back to Project Central using the tab. If I were to jump back into Central Documents now, where did I store it? That's right, Q4. And sure enough, there it is, ready for me to rock and roll. So, creating a file doesn't have to mean that you know exactly where it's going to be just yet. You can use the waffle icon here in the top left-hand corner to create new Word documents, Excel spreadsheets, PowerPoint presentations, and OneNote notebooks. They'll save in your OneDrive, meaning that only you have access to them until you're ready to ship. At which point, we'll use the Copy To feature in OneDrive to designate which SharePoint site we put it in, and which document library, and to an even more granular degree, which folder. Go ahead and pause the video and try that for yourself. We clicked on the waffle icon, we created a new file, we navigated to OneDrive, and we moved it to our SharePoint site library. We'll see you after the break. When we're talking about working with files in SharePoint, it's important to note that we have access to a litany of tools in order to make those changes. When we think about working in Excel, we often think about opening the Start menu and searching for the Excel application. But it's important to note that when we're making quick, iterative changes to a file in SharePoint, we're not necessarily limited to just the desktop application. And in fact, if there's small changes, it might not be worth the process of going and opening that desktop app. So instead, we'd like to talk about how we can edit files that are in SharePoint using the given web apps made available here in Office 365. To edit a file, bear in mind that you can edit any text-based file, as well as spreadsheets, presentations, and OneNote notebooks through SharePoint. To edit a file, simply find the file you'd like to edit, and then right-click. You'll see the option to Open. Now, of course, you know you can edit using the desktop application, Excel. But you'll also have the option to open in Excel Online. Keep in mind you don't have to right-click either. You can also just hover over that file and click the ellipses to the right, and you'll get the same options there as well. You can also select the file using the check mark on the left-hand side and select Open to get the exact same options there as well. You can also simply click on the name of the file, which will open it up in a separate tab, at which point you can then click Edit Workbook up here in the top right corner, and once again choose from those options as well. No matter how you choose to edit this file, in this example, we're going to go ahead and choose to open online, meaning we're going to use the Office 365 web apps made available here for Excel. And just like that, it's opened up Excel using the online web app. So I'm going to go ahead and make a couple of changes here. There we go. So I've made some wild and crazy changes here. Now, of course, bear in mind that what we're dealing with here is an online version of this file, hence the name Excel Online up at the top portion of the screen. And as a quick reminder, when editing online, there is no save button. Simply make the changes that you'd like, and when you're done, either click the name of the site you were previously in, or close the tab. And just like that, we've made changes to that file. It was that easy. Let's try it with one more. Let's say I'd like to edit the post-meeting follow-up file. So I'm going to go ahead and right-click on this file and choose Open, and open in Word Online. Once again, it's opened using the web-based version of Microsoft Word. Now, at any point, I can choose to work in the desktop version of an application by using the Edit in Word or Edit in Excel or Edit in PowerPoint button. In my instance, I'll go ahead and rename a few things. Maybe I'll say this is a less important, non-collaborative title. I'll go ahead and spice this up a little bit. Make it red. Now, of course, just as a quick reminder one last time, any changes that you make are saved automatically. And when you're done, simply click on the name of the site or close the tab in order to leave the file. So I jump back. And there's that file that I just worked on. That was the file, but I just changed the view back to flat view. If you're not sure what flat view is, feel free to revert back to our custom non-folder view video that we recorded previously in this session. Pretty cool. So a ton of tools at our disposal so that we can edit no matter what computer we're on. Now, a lot of people see the web app and they go, when would I ever use that? Keep in mind that if you have your desktop application and you'd prefer to use those, go for it. By all means, continue to use the desktop app. But if you're on the go, you're traveling, you're not on your computer, there are going to be instances where you might need to be able to use Word or Excel or PowerPoint and not have access to it on the machine you're on. And so, we have the web apps. Go ahead and try creating or editing a file using the Word, Excel, PowerPoint, or OneNote web apps. We'll see you after the break. SharePoint surveys are great, but if you're not a site owner or a site admin, they can feel a little limiting in terms of what options and settings you have available to you. So Microsoft has created another solution with regards to surveys that you have access to utilizing OneDrive for Business. Now keep in mind, if your organization doesn't support OneDrive for Business currently, you're not going to be able to use this feature. But for those of you that do, come along. So first things first, we're not going to be in SharePoint for this. I'm actually going to go ahead and click on the little Omni button or waffle icon up here in the top left portion of the screen. And I'll go ahead and navigate to OneDrive. Here in OneDrive, you'll notice that the interface is very, very similar to a SharePoint document library. And that's actually deliberate. OneDrive is foundationally based in SharePoint, but that's a class for another time. Instead, I'm currently in OneDrive. I'm going to go ahead and click on the New dropdown up at the top portion of the screen. Of course, you'll see the same options we saw in other instances in a document library. Create a new folder, Word document, spreadsheet, presentation, OneNote notebook, and here we go, an Excel survey. So a survey that is foundationally built on top of Excel, but allows us to ask questions like a survey. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Excel survey. And I'll go ahead and call this the lunch survey. And I'll click create. When you first create this survey, you're going to get a wizard that pops up that looks something like this, where it asks for a title. What's for lunch? Enter a description here. Choose what's for lunch. We'll go ahead and populate our first question here. Now, when you click on the box that says enter your first question here, you'll notice that a little window pops up to the top right. This can be hidden and revealed using the gear that appears in each of these segments. So I'll go ahead and populate my first question as, do you have any allergies? This can help us. It would help if I spelled that right. Avoid ordering something that could hurt. Now, when you're positing a question like this, it's important to determine what your response type will be. If you want users to be able to type anything into that field, then you'll leave it as text or paragraph text. Text, of course, is for those one-line answers. Paragraph is when we're asking for multi-line. You can ask for just a number, a date, time specific, a checkbox, check yes for no, or that, check for yes, uncheck for no. I can even provide a drop-down choice list. Keep in mind that if you're trying to create graphs and charts, it's highly recommended that you limit the types of input that a user can give. But if you're trying to create a survey that collects any possible answer, then of course you'll use your text fields. In this instance, I'm going to go ahead and say yes or no. So if they have an allergy, they'll say yes, and if they don't, then they'll leave it set as no. And we'll go ahead and require that. And I'll click done. So there's our first question. We'll go ahead and pause the video here. To create a survey, once again, remember, you're going to click on the Omni button in the top left-hand corner. You're going to go to OneDrive. You're going to select New and Excel Survey. And finally, you're going to populate a title, subtitle, and your very first question. We'll see you after the break. Welcome back. So we've already populated our first question. I'm going to go ahead and add one more question. In this case, I'll make the question a choice response. And I'll say, which would you prefer? Choose your choice. We'll go ahead and require this and we'll say veggie sandwich, barbecue, burgers, or stir fry. I'll go ahead and leave no default answer, and I'll go ahead and click done. So there you go. When you're done with your survey, what you'd like to do is probably save and view it to make sure that it looks exactly the way you want it to look. So I'll go ahead and click on Save and View. And this is what the survey will actually look like. So I can actually populate yes or no for allergies. What would I prefer? I might choose barbecue. And finally, someone will click Submit. Now, in the event that the survey doesn't look exactly the way you want it to, you can always click Edit Survey and go back and add more questions. But when you're ready, go ahead and click Share Survey. When you share a OneDrive for Business survey, it's going to allow you to share it via this link. Now, keep in mind, it's going to be sharing out of your OneDrive. So anybody that submits an answer to this question, it's going to be populated in the Excel spreadsheet you see behind us. So you'll notice that as people who have been given this link start to fill out this survey, I'm actually getting those answers populated in real time. Pretty cool. Now, of course, bear in mind that this entire file is being saved in your OneDrive for Business. In this case here, it's important to remember what you named it. In this case, I named mine Lunch. Simply clicking on that link will open up Excel Online and allow me to see what answers I've already received. That said, if I need to make changes to the survey, like adding a question or editing an existing question, I'll need to click Edit Workbook and edit in the browser. Don't try to add any columns here, and definitely don't try to change anything here in the actual spreadsheet. Instead, here in the Home tab, take a look and find the Survey dropdown. You see, the survey isn't this, and you certainly don't want to share this Excel spreadsheet. Instead, you're going to click the Survey dropdown, and you'll get your link, again, through Share Survey, or if you want to edit the survey, you'll click Edit Survey. And from there, you'll be able to populate or edit any existing questions. So once again, as a quick reminder, don't share this file. Instead, share the link that's given to you when you click Share Survey. If you share the actual file, everybody's going to be able to see all the answers, and that's not a very user-friendly experience. Instead, share the link. They will see this. They won't see the spreadsheet behind it, and everybody leaves happy. As an added bonus, because this data is in Excel, it's incredibly easy for us to then build charts or build pivot tables that analyze this data and give us the best answer for the best questions. Go ahead and pause the video. Add any additional questions you'd like, and then share the link with someone you know. Check out and see what the end results look like, and if you'd like, go to the Home tab and edit the survey again, just to see how it works. This brings us to our final section, About Me. Now, it's important to note that About Me is a centralized insight point into who you are within an organization, and you can customize quite a bit about it. However, it's important to note beyond that your About Me has nothing to do with any one particular SharePoint site. It's about who you are within all of SharePoint, across all sites, across all projects, across all departments. So keep that in mind as you're customizing, that it's not site-specific. To access your About Me, simply turn your eyes to the top right corner of the screen and identify your name. You may even see your picture. Although if you don't see your picture, you should note that we can customize that through About Me. Once you've clicked on your name, select About Me. Now, when you do click on About Me, it is taking you away from that SharePoint site that we were currently in. So it's important to note that changes we see here have no bearing whatsoever on those sites. It's here that you'll see a ton of useful information, including your name, your upcoming schedule, and you can even see the ability to update your profile. Pretty cool. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Update Profile. And it's here, you'll see that we have the option to customize information about how people can contact you, information about you. You can even add information about projects you're currently working on, your skills and expertise, even your interests and hobbies. No matter how you choose to populate this information, it's important to note that we can use this to add additional insight into if people are looking for you, what is it that you bring to the table? Particularly valuable in larger scale organizations. Beyond that, it's also here that you can customize your photo. This is the same photo that appears in Skype for Business and Outlook. Do keep in mind that if you change it here, it does take up to a day or two for that photo to propagate across the entire system, and not all organizations allow you to change your photo. You can also customize the cover photo, so if you're not in love with the sunflower in the background here, you do have a few more options at your disposal. Not only do you have the ability to customize your photo, your information, and the background, you can also see any recent documents you've been working on. Not only can you see those files, you can also choose to favorite them, or even pin them to a board. If you're familiar with Pinterest, it works very similarly to that. Now, it's important to note that that dives a little bit farther into Delve, and for that, we'll defer you to the Office 365 Delve video. You'll also notice on the left-hand side, you can see other people. And when you click on them, it'll take you to their profile, where you can see their information that they've populated and any recent documents that you have been given access to. Keep in mind, you will never see a file here that you don't have permission to access. And likewise, no one will see any of your files unless you explicitly share it with them, either through SharePoint or through OneDrive for Business. To favorite a file, simply click on the little favorite icon. You can view all of your favorites and curate them even further utilizing the favorite section here on the left. And there you go. Once again, I'd like to remind you that not only do you have the ability to favorite documents, but you also have the ability to manage using boards. And as one final note with regards to your About Me, all this information and more can be accessed using the Delve mobile apps, either on iOS or on Android. Go ahead and give About Me a quick test. Explore it, see what information you'd like to provide, and feel free to check out other users' profiles to see what information they provide.